Hello, and welcome to CLEA'S World. I am Clea Mechanical, and today I would like to speak about a very common fallacy that we collectively fall into because it's been indoctrinated into us since the very beginning, and it's one of the biggest ways in which we undermine ourselves and we are being undermined by the powers that were. But before we move forward, I'd like to ask you to please like and share this video if it resonates with you. Absolutely, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. And do leave me a comment. Not only I read all of them, but I also really appreciate hearing if you resonate with anything that I say, or if you have a different take, or if you have a real life example that applies to the content of the video. I really want to hear what's going on for you out there. All right, but let's move forward. Before I start, I want to tell you what inspired this video so that it kind of makes sense. There is a lady who I follow. She's a psychic, and I've been following her since the beginning. I love this lady. She's she's very near and dear to my heart in terms of her message. Her message is very much about sovereignty, about checking in with yourself. She's never once said, oh, you got to listen to me, I'm the guru. She's very down to earth. Very wise, a person in many ways, very sovereign. And I really, really like her. And she did a video, she made a video some time ago. And this video was super interesting, but it also had in there this one thing that didn't resonate with me. And I know she wouldn't take any offense at me saying this for the simple reason that she is that cool. And just like me, she says, everything has to resonate with you because neither she nor I have any proof of anything we're saying, right? We're tapping in. We are doing what we need to do to make sure that we're tapping into the right source and, and that we're clear. But at the same time, we don't have proof, right? We're just trying to understand how the world works. So I know she wouldn't have any issue with me saying what I'm about to say. But this particular thing jumped out at me from her video. Actually, there were two things that jumped out at me that I wanted to discuss. So I'll tell you what the video was about. She was talking about mud floods and resets. So she was connecting, and she basically got the information that in 1820, there was another reset. It wasn't the first, another mud flood, because mud floods are an easy way to cover up a lot of the stuff that's happened before physically. And through this reset, we came up with the reality we're living through right now. What kind of made me perk up my ears is that she said that the reason she was getting for this reset was that prior to this reset, we were all very intelligent, we were all very tapped in, or we had a very easy life. Basically, life was wonderful. Basically, life was what we wish it were now. And we had, everybody had knowledge, basically it was this wonderful world, which sounds great to me, actually. I don't know what's wrong with that. But she was basically getting that the reason we reset is because it was too easy. It was an easy lifestyle, and therefore we as souls were not evolving. And this is where I started thinking about this concept. I'm like, where is this coming from? So I will tell you my own personal story around this subject, and which hopefully explains why this is such an important thing that I want to bring up today. We live in a world where we think that we are great or competent, and for sure I was one of these people, when we are able to overcome obstacles. In fact, the more obstacles you're able to overcome in different areas of life, the more competent you feel, the more powerful you feel, all of that, which on the surface makes sense, right? As opposed to just falling apart every time something happens, something challenging happens. So nothing to say there. This totally makes sense. Unfortunately, this is our reality, and we have to just pull ourselves together and keep going. I, for example, have had cancer. I've had to deal with that. I'm a single mom. I've gone through my fair share of stuff that, I really could have done without. Now, here's the thing, is that we are taught that this makes us stronger. And I used to believe this. to the point, I always said one of my favorite mottos was, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I've always thought of myself as being a very strong person because I've overcome all of this. So what happened to me is that when I went through my dark night of the soul, which lasted years, because again, I was going through cancer, I'd become a single mom. I actually found out I had cancer the day after I had my baby. I was still in the hospital, gone through so much stuff. My ex-husband, my daughter's child, basically abandoned us shortly after that. I mean, there's been all kinds of stuff. Basically, we've been on our own, and which is fine. When I was going through that, I had very dark moments. I had moments, basically, I had to look at myself and I had to turn myself inside out. And in doing that, I felt like I lost everything. I lost my identity. I lost my financial stability. I lost everything. And during those moments, I remember telling myself, saying, or asking the universe, really is what I was doing, saying, I feel like I'm being kicked all the time, because the better I get at overcoming, the more stuff I'm being sent to overcome. And now when I think about it, in hindsight, it makes sense, because what you're putting out there is that you're so excited. It gives you a thrill that you're overcoming things. It's almost like an adrenaline thing. You're so proud of yourself. This actually makes you happy. Of course, if it works the way we've been told it works, where you manifest stuff, you're going to manifest something that makes you really excited, which is like, oh my God, I survived that. Thank God. It's so good to be back, right? So you get more and more crap thrown at you because you are excited about overcoming it, okay? So I got to a point where I was tired of this. For the first time in my life, I couldn't take anymore. And I asked the universe, I said, I am tired of this. There must be a way to do this more gracefully. Now, here's the interesting part. I had never up to that point, and this was a few years ago, used the word grace in my life. The only thing I know about grace, besides obviously its basic meaning, which is to be graceful, to do things with grace, that's fine. What I knew about grace is that from a spiritual perspective, it was a religious term. So I didn't know really what was meant by grace. I have no idea what that word came to me. So I spent 3 days basically yelling and screaming at my guides, at the universe, whoever wanted to listen. And I said, there's got to be a better way. I want to do things with grace. And again, I had no idea what that meant. So here's what happened. In fact, it was such a huge deal for me that I even wrote about this in my first book, which is Untamed and Free, in case you're curious. Actually, I'll link it below in the description box if you're curious about it. And I have my iPad here because I want to read to you about this passage as well. But what happened is that after 3 days, I felt the urge to go to my basement to look for a book to read. As I go down there, I have no idea what I'm going to read. As I go down there, I find a series of books by Edgar Cayce. So I didn't even remember I had these books. I bought these books. I bought them many years earlier, and they were just there. And all of a sudden, I don't know if you're familiar with Edgar Cayce, but he was basically the biggest medium in the 20th century. We have like 40 years worth of recordings from him. He was right on about a bunch of stuff. He's called the Sleeping Giant because, no, maybe it wasn't Sleeping Giant, Sleeping Prophet. Okay, close enough. The Sleeping Prophet, because he would go to sleep and then basically be in a sleep trance when he was being recorded, and he would answer all kinds of medical questions. Just to tell you how accurate he was, the CIA, of course, always trying to protect us, decided that they were going to remove a lot of his stuff from the public because he does talk about the future and stuff like that. So a lot of the stuff has been confidential, has been classified, and so on. So I say this is a premise so you can understand how the fact that when I found this message, it had credibility for me. So after 3 days of yelling at the universe, saying, this is not okay with me, I don't want any more challenges, I go and find this. So I'm going to read the passage to you. So I find this book. It's called Angels, Archangels, and let me see the title here, and Unseen Forces, in case you want to check it out. It's an amazing book. And here's what I wrote. It described, so I open up this book, and this particular passage, I don't know where it just jumps out at me, says it described how Cayce would occasionally get messages through Archangel Michael, who told him and his group that he spoke for God. However, one day, Archangel Halaliel, and I don't know how you pronounce it, but hopefully it's halaliel, shows up in Michael's place, explaining that he's the Lord of karma. And that karma means learning lessons the hard way, being tested over and over until the energy is balanced out. He asked halaliel that they listen to him instead of Michael from now on. After debating this, Casey and his group decide to reject halaliel's intercession and to only listen to Michael. The next time they connect with Michael, Michael explains that there is not just one way to solve things. Karma is a law, but it can be avoided through, wait for it, grace. Grace is about believing in love and in God and setting everything all right in this way. I'm sorry, I have allergies, so my nose is itching. Grace is about believing in love and in God and setting everything all right in this way. There is always a choice. We can either learn through karma or through grace. So this was like a partition of the waters for me, because my entire life I thought that I had to do things the hard way to learn. I was like, yeah, but you have to be grateful for the challenges. What makes you stronger? What makes you better? What makes you grow up, right? And then lo and behold, it doesn't have to be that way. Now I see that this is very common in our society. We've been programmed by this, and that's why I think this is also seeping through into the spiritual community, where we think that in order to ascend, we have to do hard things and go through hard things. Otherwise, we don't learn. So I will read this to you. This is from a book that is called Making Love to God, and it's written by Louise Spalding, who is actually a channeler for Ananda and Jesus. This book is outstanding. I highly recommend it, and I will link it below. This short paragraph. What would you do if you wanted to keep a population disempowered and you knew that their power was their connection to their own desires and passions? You would find a teaching that spoke of disconnection being virtuous and passion being evil. Is this beginning to sound familiar to any of you? And he goes on to say that she's saying just because she's referring to the church, people in the church, especially the early people in the church, they knew that our power came from following our desires and living in flow with who we are, feeling ourselves, feeling our feelings and who we are. They basically wanted to disconnect us, but this is not to say that the message from Jesus was wrong. In fact, Jesus was saying the opposite of the church. So it says, your connection to your own creative power comes from a peaceful mind and heart listening to inner guidance. This is what Christ taught. So do not let our judgments of the church get mixed up with those teachings of the most wise one who has walked the face of the planet. So why am I bringing this up? Because there's a lot of this, you probably heard it in other places, that we are ascending in the sense that we have accumulated all these experiences, we've proven ourselves, we're becoming higher frequency, more awake, whatever it is. If you have followed me for any length of time and watched my previous videos where I connect with the 25th, the message we are told is that we already all ascended masters. We're simply down here in this fake reality, basically this holographic reality, because we're bored up in the 25th dimension, because life is eternal there and all we do is hang out. Okay. And so we come here to experience different things. Now, experiencing different things doesn't mean that there is more value in experiencing bad things because that way you become more savvy or anything, because we truly are already ascended beings. So when we talk about awakening or improving ourselves, these are all game board names. These are rules within the matrix. And as a reminder, the matrix is everything below the 25th dimension. So all other planets are part of the matrix, just like ours. Okay, I know we get told a lot that the matrix is only here on this planet. Again, this is a game we play where we feel like everybody else knows something we don't know, and we're the only ones that are in the matrix. It's all the same. But why is this important? Because the fact is, we don't have to learn anything, first of all. We just have to entertain ourselves. And we definitely don't have to learn the hard way. In fact, It's a lot more fun to learn a good way. It's almost like saying, when they're saying, oh, life is too easy, you're not learning anything. It's almost like saying, let me give you an analogy. It's like saying that unless you beat a child when you're trying to teach them something, it's just not going to learn. Now, if you tell them nicely, it's just not going to get it. So I'm sure you can see the absurdity of that if you think about it. Another way that I see this, that I look at this, it's almost like, because I realize that for a lot of us, me included, we need, like a lot of us talk about the 2x4, we need to be smacked in the forehead by a 2x4 sometimes to realize the truth of a situation. Otherwise, we just go along on our merry way. We're basically always on the same wavelength until something comes, we hit a wall, we hurt ourselves really badly, and then finally we wake up and go to the next level. Absolutely, that happens. It's happened with me. What I call my own personal awakening came from going through this dark night of the soul. So is it true that the dark night of the soul will make you more aware of things, and therefore, on paper, at least, will make you more higher frequency, more conscious? Yes, it is not necessarily doesn't necessarily happen for everybody. There are people that have a bad experience and just move forward exactly as they were doing before. But for a lot of us, when we think of our own awakening, personal awakening growth, we go back to hard moments in our lives. They're very life-changing. We know this. They can be watershed moments. However, when I think of this is what I think about. Think of it, I don't know if you've ever seen the Blair Witch Project, when there was a person, they see a kid that they would get like put in a corner, but not, so it's almost like you're punished, you have to go to the corner. So you have these two walls in front of you, this corner, right? And it's almost like we're always looking at one corner, say we're looking at the left corner. And then finally, when something wants to catch our attention, we're like, oh, we turn our eyesight, our attention to the right wall now. And we're like, oh my God, this is completely different. Yes, it might be different, and it might be giving you a new perspective of life, but really what you should be doing if you truly want to see how the world works is you need to turn around and look at the room, the rest of the room that is not in the corner. Even better, if you like ascend above the room and then you look at the entire picture from above. That's what we're going for. So when we say we're going to learn through, we need trauma to learn, which is so ridiculous when you spell it out like this. We need negative things to grow and learn. That's simply because if you look at it from a very 3D perspective, where again, we've been programmed to suffer, and not because this was the intention, this has been the dark team doing this, and we've been programmed that it's virtuous to suffer, then of course that makes sense. At least we do wake up. It doesn't feel good, but at least we do wake up. But do we really need to have cancer to wake up? Would it be easier to actually do things through grace? Because let me tell you, once I healed myself after this dark night of the soul, and I finally started having a lot of understanding and awareness about how the world has been really programmed and set up, and I pulled myself out of a lot of the stuff, I can tell you, I have kept growing. I have learned so much more. In fact, my knowledge is accelerating. My awareness is accelerating. And this has been done without any trauma. So I disagree, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. I disagree with this idea that we need for things to be difficult for us to learn. It just doesn't make any sense to me when I break it down, when I think about it. So I definitely would like to hear what you think about this. But I did mention that there were a couple of things that didn't resonate in that particular video. And this is the second one, which again is a very, 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 very common thing. So I'm not trying to single out this lady who, as I mentioned, I really like. It was the fact that there's always one solution for all. It's one size fits all. So if you hear a lot of people out there, spiritual people, they're always talking about this collective whatever that is happening, collective awakening, collective sleeping, collective reset. Basically, it's like we all have to decide together or nothing is going to happen. That is not the information I received from the 25th. The 25th has told me we're looking at a trifurcation. So there's actually 3, if not 4 groups of people, if you count the people going back to 25th. So we have free choice. We have choices, which makes much more sense to me, that we have free will, because we know we do this. We don't even have to be here. We are here because of our free will. So we have a trifurcation. And it's not true that we are collectively really doing anything. What we are doing is that we've decided in the 25th to take this particular game down. That's the only level of collectiveness we've had. But how we move forward in that, the fact that everybody has to awaken to whatever somebody's truth is, or that, if we have sleepers, people want to retain the 3D experience, then we're not going anywhere. We need to have certain percentages of people being awakened, and we're doing this because we're ascending. None of this resonates with me. It's almost like saying, it reminds me of elementary school when I was in Italy. I always felt like people who were faster were waiting for people at the back of the class to catch up. That wasn't fun. That actually slowed down our growth and our understanding. It didn't make it any faster. And literally, the people at the back of the class, they weren't enjoying it either. They were in the back of the class because they were idiots. A lot of people have not done well in school who are brilliant people. They were failing in that particular system because the system was set up for us to fail. Okay, it's not education. It wasn't based on what their interests were, right? This is how education should be. It should be facilitating what children's interests are. It shouldn't be trying to mold them into a box. And anybody who's outside of that is an idiot. Basically, you're being called, you're being given, I don't know, 4s, because we used to have a 10 number scale for grading. So we're giving 4s and 3s. So basically you fail because you're an idiot. That's the concept. So we get programmed with this lack of worth very, very early. But the reason I'm saying this is because even this idea of a collective, and that we're always here waiting, there are some of us always here waiting, doesn't feel like free will, doesn't feel right. And in fact, that's why I was very happy to hear from the 25th when I started connecting on my own, that that's actually not true. It's not what's happening at all. Everybody's moving forward exactly from where they are, because they don't need, where they are is simply a reflection of what they want to experience. There is no judgment on that. Because when you hear people saying, oh, we're waiting for the sleepers to wake up, that's pretty judgmental, right? And I know that in the 3D world, we are meant to be judgmental. That's how we're built, and that's fine. But it's very judgmental when it comes to the fact that we're on one side, we're saying that we're all individual souls with free will. On the other side, we're saying, oh my God, when are you going to wake up? They're such a mess, these people. If they could just see things like I see them. This is not really how it works. They are experiencing what they want. They're going to move on to a better, improved simulation of 3D reality. So they're never really going to wake up in that sense. And they don't have to, because they want to experience a certain type of world. The people that instead are truthers, they're going to experience a different type of world. And then there's people like me, for example, going to New Earth, and we're going to experience something different. So you hear a lot of this generalization as if we're all equal. It doesn't make any sense. If we truly are here to learn and experience, it will only help the collective knowledge if we have different experiences, not all the same. So it's not a matter of evolution. Evolution is a very binary thing, a very 3D thing, to 3D way to think about things, where we are going from A to B to C, or we're going from 1 to 2 to 3, or we're getting better and better. It doesn't work that way. We don't have to improve ourselves. As souls, we already have everything. We are complete. And in fact, a lot of the people that even say these things that make no sense to me, they do recognize this. If we're complete as souls, why are we wanting to improve ourselves? Again, it doesn't mean we don't want to experience different things. If we came on Earth and had 1,000 lives all the same, that would be boring. But it doesn't mean you have to have lives that make you miserable to compensate. It doesn't have to be about karma. You don't have to repay anything. These are just experiences that we choose. So I hope this resonates, and please let me know, definitely in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you on the next video. Bye.